Practical Anarchy, A Guide to Self-Determination, Dickie Dredd. Principles, or Section 85, Principles of a Free Society. At its core, a free society would be guided by four principles: autonomy, federation, mutual aid, and ecological balance. These are not abstract slogans, but practical foundations for survival and flourishing. Autonomy means that communities and individuals make decisions for themselves without hierarchy or coercion. Federation ensures that autonomy does not collapse into isolation by linking groups through recallable delegates and councils rooted in assembly mandates. Mutual aid, the ethic running through disaster solidarity and countercultural glimpses, provides the everyday glue of cooperation. Ecological balance grounds all this, reminding us that freedom is unsustainable if it replicates the extractivism and growth imperatives of corporatism. Earlier sections showed how federated research councils might act as the backbone for such a system, centralised yet coordinated, adaptive rather than rigid. Low-tech resilience must serve as the foundations of such a society, with high-tech tools positioned as support rather than dependency. Food sovereignty through small-scale permaculture, seed saving and shared gardens ensures autonomy at the most basic level. Repair cafes, tool libraries and bicycle networks reduce reliance on centralised infrastructures, while fostering skills and collaboration. These practices can operate even under conditions of collapse, giving continuity when global supply chains fail. High-tech systems, open-source digital platforms, renewable energy, microgrids and automation for undesirable tasks would certainly enhance resilience, but only when they are transparent, community-controlled and replaceable. If they become indispensable, they risk becoming new infrastructures of domination rather than instruments of liberation. A crucial principle of a free society is education treated as a commons. This means free learning throughout life, not restricted by age or social class, and never treated as a commodity to be purchased or a credential to be hoarded. Learning would be reintegrated into everyday life, from gardening, carpentry and repair to philosophy, coding and music. In such a model, a person in their 70s might begin a new scientific inquiry, while a teenager could become a mentor in craft or ecology. This undermines one of capitalism's most subtle forms of control, the artificial scarcity of knowledge. Later section on accountability without prisons suggested that education itself can be one of the most powerful tools for preventing harm, and this principle extends here. Continual learning sustains both resilience and freedom. The question often raised is what people would do with their time once freed from wage slavery. Critics assume that without the threat of destitution, people will lapse into idleness. Yet evidence from communities outside the wage system suggests otherwise. Anthropological studies of hunter-gatherer societies show that when basic needs are secured, people spend much of their time in storytelling, craft, ritual and play, activities essential for meaning and cohesion. In modern experiments, from cooperatives to housing collectives, participation is often driven not by external compulsion, but a sense of belonging and purpose. The assumption that laziness is the natural human condition is more a projection of capitalist ideology than the fact of psychology. Motivation in a free society would be multifaceted. Some would pursue creative expression in art, music, design, or writing. Others would dedicate themselves to scientific discovery, caregiving or ecological restoration. The flourishing of volunteer fire brigades, community kitchens and crisis mutual aid groups, even under current conditions, shows how willing people are to act when their contribution is visible and meaningful. Everyday anarchism demonstrates that low-key practices such as cooking for neighbours, growing food or repairing tools are not trivial extras, but the building blocks of self-managed life. Case studies add weight to these principles. In New Zealand, Maori-based structures demonstrate how communities can organise around shared land, ritual and hospitality, blending tradition with social resilience. Maori are not only spiritual centres but also hubs of food sharing, education and dispute resolution. showing how autonomy, ecological balance and collective responsibility can be integrated. In Europe, the Free University of Berlin and the more recent Uni per Tutti initiatives in Italy embody education as a commons, self-organised, non-hierarchical learning environments where students and teachers co-create curricula, resisting the commodification of knowledge. Both examples highlight how autonomy, mutual aid and lifelong education are not abstract ideals, but living practices. Ecological balance, the final pillar, requires not only sustainable production, but a transformation of values. A free society cannot simply replicate capitalist consumption patterns under different ownership. Instead, it would embed sufficiency, circularity, and reuse into its very culture. Low-impact housing, rewilding land, degrowth practices, and low-energy generation would ensure that freedom does not come at the cost of ecological collapse. High-tech solutions, from fusion energy to AI-assisted coordination, may help, but they cannot replace the baseline of low-tech resilience. A network of resilient communities, able to function without fragile global supply chains, is far more secure than a dependence on technologies controlled by corporations or states. A free society, then, is not a fixed utopia or rigid plan. It is a living framework of autonomy, federation, mutual aid, and ecological balance, continually adapted by those who live in it. Education is free and lifelong, knowledge is shared, time is freed from wage slavery, and motivation is regrounded in creativity and care. In this framework, low-tech resilience is the soil in which high-tech tools can be planted without becoming weeds of domination. And above all, it insists that cooperation, curiosity and care are not exemptions to human behaviour, but its most basic enduring possibilities.